If you ever worked with tile maps in Unity, I'm sure you came across with the tilemap extras package and its rule tile. It is a very powerful tool that can save you a lot of time. But have you ever noticed the Create Custom Rule Tile Script option in the Create Asset menu and wondered how it works and how do you use it? In this video I'm going to show you where custom rule tiles are useful, how do they work, and how can you create your own ones. The default rule tiles in Unity are really useful, but there is one thing that they can do. They don't interact with other tiles other than themselves, but with custom tiles you can change that. You can make a tile that connects to a specific tile other than just itself, or you can make a tile which will completely change to a different looking one if there is another tile next to it, or you could make a tile that will serve as a border to other tiles. Only your imagination is the limit here. In order to create your own custom tile, first you need to understand how the tile checks for its neighboring tiles. It checks for every tile next to it and will either return true or false, depending on the rule you specified. If you didn't specify the rule, it will always return true. If the rule is set to this, it will return true if the tile at that position is the same tile as this tile. And the not this rule will return true if the tile at that position is anything but this tile. The script will choose the sprite where every neighboring tile rule will return true. If none of the tiles match, it will return the default sprite. Now that we understand how rule tiles work, we can start programming our own tile. We will create a tile which will have 3 extra options. An option to check for any tile, an option to check for specific tiles, and an option to check if there is an empty space. To create the script, go to the Create Asset menu and click on the Create Custom Rule Tile Script button that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. When we open this script there will be 2 methods already. The first one is the neighbor class, where we will write our custom rules, and the second method is the rule match method, where we will, match our rules. Let's create our custom rules in the neighbor class. This class just contains static integers with a value. It's only there to give names to your rules. Rules 1 and 2 are the default this and not this rules. If you want to override these, start from 1. If you want to keep the default rules, start from 3 instead. In this case I want to keep the default 2 rules and add 3 additional rules to it. So the values of the integers will be 3, 4 and 5. After we specify the rules, we can go to the rule match function. This function is executed for every neighboring tile and will return either true or false. By default, the method contains everything we need. We just need to add our custom rules to the switch statement and return a bool value. I will add our rules to the switch statement and make a separate function for every rule so my code is kinda more clean. To be honest, I'm not sure about that one. Each of these functions will take the neighbor tile as parameters, so we have something to compare to. For the this rule we will override it so we can also check for other types of tiles. Let's create an array of tiles and call it tiles to connect, and also make a bool to toggle if we check for the tiles or not. Let's call this variable always connect. In the function we will check if the always connect variable is enabled or not. If it's not, we will just return true if the tile equals to this, as we will return true if the tile is equals to this, or if the tiles to connect array contains our tile. With the system.linkQ namespace we can just use .contains to check if the array contains our tile. For the not this rule we won't modify anything. You can skip this one, but I just included it to show you how it works. It returns true if the other tile is not equal to this tile. For the any rule, we return true if the other tile is not empty, so it's not equal to null. I also added an option to exclude this tile, so it will return true if it's not empty and it's not this tile. For the specified rule, we return true if our array contains our tile. Once again we can use the .contains extension to check if the array contains that tile. And lastly, for the nothing rule we return true if the tile is empty, so it's equal to null. And we are done. One last thing we can do is give a path to where we can find our asset in the Create Asset menu, so it's more organized. We are ready to use this tile, so we can go back to Unity now. You can create your custom tile by right-clicking in the project window, clicking on Create and navigating to your specified location. I already made 2 rule tiles which I want to convert into this new custom tile. But when I create a tile, it will create a brand new tile asset. Luckily, I know a way to convert your existing tile into custom tiles. If you change your inspector mode from normal to debug mode, you can actually replace what script does this asset use. Since our custom class is extending from the rule tile class, we can just replace the default rule tile script with our custom rule tile script, and nothing will change, except the tile will now use our custom rules. So now we can specify the other tiles to connect to, set up our tiles, and it's working flawlessly. The tiles in this state are working perfectly, but let's be honest here, these numbers on our custom tiles are not great. So I'm gonna show you how you can add custom icons for our custom rules. Let's create a script called Advanced Rule Tile Editor. This script will extend from the Rule Tile Editor class. This will be the custom editor for the Advanced Rule Tile script. So let's set the custom editor attribute before the class. And we can also add the can edit multiple objects attribute there. It's useful to have, but it's optional. I also put this class into the Unity editor namespace, but that's not necessary either. This will make sure you can only reference the script if you are using the Unity editor namespace. In the class, let's create a few texture 2D references, one for every of our custom rules. In this case, I created 3 references. If we look at the default rule tile editor script, we can find where and how the images are assigned to the editor. This method is the ruleOnGUI method, so we'll override this function. We'll check for our custom rules, and if it's matching, we'll draw a texture like in the base class. Then we'll return from the function so the numbers won't be drawn on top of the images. After this is done, we'll call the base function to draw the default images. That's it. Now we can go back to Unity and assign the texture. Now if we select a custom rule, it will show our image instead of the numbers. That's it for this tutorial. If you found it useful, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. See ya!